Hi, this is Hiki with the Lost Samba podcast, and today we're going to talk about the streets, beaches, the mountains, the people playing football, the exuberant nature of cariocas, all personified in one of its great sons, namely Jorge Ben, professionally known nowadays as Jorge Benjor.
Moro num país tropical, abençoado por Deus e bonito por natureza. Mas que beleza, fevereiro.
You can't be much more carioca than Jorge Ben. He grew up in a lower middle class neighborhood called Madureira, that I love the name, but I've never been there, unfortunately. And legend, and he says that his mother was Ethiopian, although she has a Brazilian name. I don't know if this is true or not, but if she was Ethiopian, it would be a fantastic thing, because there was very little immigration from Africa when he was growing up, and that would really set him apart. But his youth was typical. So he was good at football, and football is something that stayed with him throughout his career. He wanted to be a football player. He didn't manage to. You can imagine the competition is huge, but he was musical. So when he was around 12, his mother gave him a pandeiro. Now, the pandeiro is the most difficult instrument to play. He played it that well that he played it in the Samba school in the Salgueiro that would follow him until these days. He's every year he goes in the Samba parade of the Salgueiro. He only got his first guitar when he was around 18, 19, which kind of explains his style. He isn't very technical in the guitar, but his rhythm is fantastic. He has a natural rhythm. It's a very dancey music. It's very, very alive, like samba, like Brazilian football in its heyday, with all those great players. Very creative, very happy, and very malicious. So this is how he played guitar. And he really seemed like a football player playing guitar. He had that charisma that only football players have. You know, always smiling, you know, always healthy. He wasn't about changing the world. He wasn't about being someone special or anything. It was just about living well, having a great time, facing the difficulties with happiness, with a positive outlook, which is very carioca. And he was just about that, to understand where he comes from. We have to take in consideration three axes that were underlying Rio de Janeiro's life and culture and everything. Two of them we've already spoken about in previous podcasts. One I'll call the revolutionary. So in this kind of avenue, I'll put together the tropicalistas and the bossa nova. Right? They were more or less left-wing people wanting to change the world. They wanted to come up with something different. Right, so that's one of these avenues. The other avenue we've also seen in other podcasts was the samba. Thing is that the samba at the time was seen badly in a certain way by the middle class and by the record companies and everything. It was the music of the maids and of the poorer people, of the favelados, and people didn't see themselves in the samba, right? The white middle class. They wanted actually some distance. We're not them. We're a bit better. On the other hand, samba also, it accepted this vision or this image, and it had a chip on its shoulder. So the sambista said, we do the real thing, we are sambistas, the samba is our tradition, and the asphalt, as in the favela, they call the streets the asphalt. The asphalt is a different world. We have our world, we play samba, we have nothing to do with that. It wasn't that they were revolutionaries or wanted to change, they just didn't like their situation, obviously, and they had a certain a purity about them that was very traditional, very closed, and they didn't try to leave that closure. Then there's a third avenue. The Jovem Guarda was, young guys with long hair, normally white, very good looking, pretty boys, overproduced. You know, the record companies produced their albums and took them to TV shows, and they were everywhere, and they were very popular. They were more popular than the bossa nova or than the Tropicália, or the guys who appeared in the festivals. They really sold very well, and the auditorium, you had the girls going crazy about the singers, and this had nothing to do with the Rolling Stones or the Beatles, or later on Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, and you name it. It was very well behaved, and actually this was the song of the traditionalists. Was family music. The singers were all acceptable. Family-wise, they didn't question anything, and it was obviously the preferred music of the generals who had just done the coup, right? So while they promoted these guys and they loved them, they were putting Caetano Veloso, Gilberto Gil, Chico Buarque in prison and exiling them. The Jovem Guarda was the music of the dictatorship. It must be said that the middle class was doing really well. By the end of at the height of the dictatorship, Brazil was growing at a rate of 10% a year, 12% a year. The economy was really well. Everybody had a lot of money, so it was a huge party. So the middle class really didn't want to know about politics or anything. They just wanted to have a good life. And Brazil also was world champion, so there was a good atmosphere, despite people dying in prison, people being exiled, and all that thing that happens during a dictatorship. So in comes Jorge Ben, and he gets a bit of everything. He gets obviously the samba, that's in his roots. He grew up listening to samba. He also grew up listening to bossa nova, because that also played in the radio, and for anyone who has a good musical ear, he will like that. And Caetano Veloso and Gilberto Gil and all these people, they were all happening at the same time. So he gets the bossa nova, and he also gets the Jovem Guarda, because his songs were very easy, and they were very rhythmic, and they were very catchy, and they kind of fit into the profile of the Jovem Guarda. But of course he wasn't white, so he didn't fit in. But he got all of these different elements, right? So the revolutionary stuff on one side in his lyrics and in his posture, the samba and the Jovem Guarda. But he didn't think of this like, no, I'm going to get an influence of here and an influence of that. He just did it, and it sounded very natural. There was no pretentiousness behind it. He just did it. His songs, some were very funny, some were much more sexual than anything that anyone else did. Although there was a lot of censorship, he kind of put it in a way that could be understood but wasn't explicit. And he also talked about football. He talked about the Afro religion. He just reflected how life was, and they were all, I will say this for the 100th time, all very catchy. He was like, wrote one hit after the other. He wrote a string of hits that they sound good even now.
Os olhos azuis, e sorriso branco, não deixando dormir, sossegado.
Samba with rock, with a bit of Motown. As any very successful artist, it became pressurized. You know, they wanted him to record one album after the other, and all of them had to have hits, and all of them had to be good and everything. And he kind of got tired with that. He had already earned his money. As the 70s progressed, he started to get more into African mythology and Egyptian mythology, and his songs began to go a bit like weird. He still wrote hits, but it sounded weird for the mainstream, right? And he gradually went fading out. The strange thing is that at this time, Rod Stewart must have gone to Brazil and heard one of Jorge Ben's songs, because he plagiarized big time one of his songs. It was Taj Mahal, for you to see. It's like Jorge Ben singing about the Taj Mahal. That's Indian. And Rod Stewart used that to do a very famous song of his called Do You Think I'm Sexy? Do you think I'm sexy? Na, 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 na. And Jorge Ben's song is exactly the same thing. This wasn't very known outside Brazil, but in Brazil it was quite a shocking thing, and even Rod Stewart didn't say it was his song. Some obscure guy had written it, but it is a copy of Jorge Ben's song. Abroad, slower and slower, the guys of the Tropicália, they managed to reinvent themselves. There was a whole new generation of people coming up, and Jorge Ben kind of fell into relative obscurity. All of this changed in the late 80s, when he recorded an album called W Brasil, which had a lot of funk in it, not rap. It was like Earth, Wind and Fire, Motown. It had a big horn section. It sounded funky. The bass was very strong, and he kind of was influenced by that, but not only by them, but by one of his closest mates, Tim Maia.
Olha nós aí, Letis, lá na Tijuca.
Segundinho.
we have a podcast about him, but he's the godfather of Brazilian funk, and they were very close, so there was someone already doing that kind of music in Brazil, and Jorge Ben put like a samba twist to it, and it sounded very good, and it was a huge success. He was already like in his 40s or something, so he kind of bounced back. This kind of opens to Tim Maia and their friendship. It happens that they're childhood friends, so Tim Maia, Jorge Ben, and Erasmo Carlos, who is the main writing partner of Roberto Carlos, who's like the king of the Jovem Guarda. They were childhood friends, and they sang in a church choir, and from the church choir they did a rock band called the Sputniks, and was probably the first band in Rio with like a real rock and roll attitude, ugly guys, having fun, playing crazy music, and they were obviously very, very influential. Tim Maia has a huge career. Erasmo Carlos and Roberto Carlos, they became like mega successes, and Jorge Ben. One can't speak of Jorge Ben without speaking about two of his biggest passions. One is Flamengo, the team that he supports. He's a fanatic Flamengo supporter. It's the biggest team of Rio. At the time, it had the biggest fan base of the whole of Brazil. There are people in other states that supported Flamengo. It wasn't just a local team, it's a national team, huge team. It's known all over the world. It was world champion. He was so attached to it that at one point they would call him to go to the stadium with the team in the team buses, or when they did tours, he would go with the team just to play guitar and to keep the atmosphere good. And he was personal friends with many of the players. He actually did songs. Our first podcast is about it's Fio Maravilha. It was a huge success also. Fio Maravilha was a very popular player, coming from the lowest ranks of society. He not a very beautiful guy, and he ended up, players in those days, they ended their career back in the favela. He ended up as a pizza delivery guy in San Francisco. A friend of mine, one day he opens the door after asking for pizza, and it was Fio Maravilha delivering him a pizza in San Francisco. So that didn't end very well for him, but he had a song for him. Zico also, he has a song written by Jorge Ben. There are other football songs written by him. So that's one thing. And the other thing that is very peculiar to him is his devotion to St. George. Now, St. George isn't the patron of Rio. The patron of Rio is Saint Sebastian, but it's closely related to a deity in the Afro-Brazilian religion, Xangô. So it's basically the same thing. There's this religious synchronicity, as they call it, and it's like, as St. George, he's a good warrior, so that's like Jorge Ben's way of seeing life. Warrior of the good. Ben means good in the Portuguese, and he's a big devout. There are many records with an image of St. George, and he has songs about St. George, a very beautiful song. Actually, it's worthwhile mentioning that this devotion of St. George is something that grew throughout the years. When I was a boy, they was very granular. Not many people were devoted to him, but this grew and grew and grew, and now it's a big thing in Rio. On St. George's Day, people greet each other, they give each other presents, and it's a very healthy juxtaposition, or a very healthy response to the many evangelical churches. I mean, many evangelical churches are very sincere, they believe in what they're doing, but some they are huge organizations with lots of money. They exploit the faithful. They support the extreme right. And they persecute the Afro religions. Although there are many black people who go there, but they are very extreme, and it's a heavy vibe. So the fact that there is this devotion to San Jorge that involves the Afro-Brazilian religion is a very healthy movement, you could say, in my view. The song I'm going to play today is a song that made Jorge Ben, not only in Brazil, outside Brazil too. It's a song that he just wrote, and he decided to show it to his friends in a little gig he did in Copacabana, and he was lucky that there was an executive of Philips that at the time was a recording company. Nowadays they only do electric appliances. And this guy saw Jorge Ben play this song and said, I have to record you, this is going to be a huge success. And lo and behold, he went there, recorded the song, and in a few weeks it was playing in all the radios, and it became a national success. And it traveled abroad. It was recorded by many people outside Brazil, and I put a little twist in it, which I hope you like, and I hope you like this week's presentation. Sai da minha frente que eu quero passar, pois o samba está animado e o que eu quero é sambar. Esse samba que é misto de maracatu, é samba de preto velho, é samba de tudo. Mais que nada, um samba como esse tão legal, você não vai querer que eu chegue no final. Pois o samba está animado e o que eu quero é sambar. Esse samba que é misto de maracatu, é samba de preto velho, é samba de preto. Mais que nada, um samba como esse tão legal, você não vai querer que eu chegue no final. I'm gonna take you back to school, way, way down inside. I wanna give you my love. I wanna give you my love. I wanna give you my love. Oh, what a whole lot of love. Oh, what a whole lot of love. mais que nada. My attachment to this music is very big, and I'll explain why. Back in the day, I had a cousin who was much older than me. She was a singer and an actress who was relatively famous in Brazil, Bibi Vogel. If there are any Brazilians there of my age, they would have heard of her. She, when she was 18 or 19, she went to live in New York to try her luck as a singer or an actress, and she ended up playing with a group of Brazilians there who played bossa nova and played samba and all that, but jazzy. And they managed to make a living out of music. They were relatively successful. But she decided to take a break. She went to Brazil to take a holiday, and she heard Mais Que Nada playing on the radio. She fell in love with it, as most people did. And she went to the States and took the record to the band. They loved it, and they decided, okay, we're going to play this song, right? So they rehearsed it, and it became the band's favorite, the public's favorite. It got really big. And they signed a contract with a recording company. This was Sérgio Mendes and Brazil 66, which is, for at least a generation, my generation and the one above me and the one below me, is a household name. And they called in Quincy Jones to produce the album. Quincy Jones is the same guy who produced Michael Jackson's Thriller, and this song became like a mega success. In terms of international success, it only loses to The Girl of Ipanema. It was everywhere, and but my cousin decided that the success would be toxic for her, and she decided to leave the band before it took off. She also had a boyfriend. She was in New York. The boyfriend went to Los Angeles. She decided to go with him, and she didn't. When the band became famous, she was already out of the band. And that is the story of my connection to this song, Mais Que Nada. So I hope you liked this week's podcast, and thank you for watching. Have a great week.